When we discuss the future of African economies, we must confront a complex reality that encompasses historical, social, and economic dimensions. Here are 10 reasons why many African economies may continue to struggle for decades to come. First, let's consider the legacy of colonialism. The arbitrary borders drawn by colonial powers often ignored ethnic and cultural boundaries, leading to ongoing conflicts and instability. This fragmentation has hindered national unity and development, making it difficult for countries to foster cohesive economic policies that benefit all citizens. Second, political instability remains a significant hurdle. Many African nations have experienced coups, civil wars, and authoritarian regimes. Such instability discourages foreign investment and disrupts economic activities. Investors seek stable environments, and without it, the potential for growth diminishes significantly. Third, corruption is a pervasive issue that undermines economic progress. Corruption diverts resources away from essential services and infrastructure projects, enriching a small elite at the expense of the broader population. When public funds are siphoned off, it hampers development efforts and perpetuates poverty. Fourth, inadequate infrastructure poses a substantial barrier. Many regions in Africa lack reliable transportation, electricity, and communication systems. This deficiency not only stifles local businesses, but also makes it challenging to attract foreign investment. Without the necessary infrastructure, economic activities become inefficient and costly. Fifth, the reliance on primary commodities for export is another critical factor. Many African economies depend heavily on a narrow range of exports, such as oil, minerals, and agricultural products. This reliance makes them vulnerable to global market fluctuations. When commodity prices drop, economies suffer, often leading to increased unemployment and poverty. Sixth, the education system in many African countries is underfunded and inadequate. A lack of access to quality education limits the development of a skilled workforce. Without a well-educated population, it becomes difficult to innovate and compete in a globalized economy. This skill gap perpetuates a cycle of poverty and underdevelopment. Seventh, health crises, including diseases like HIV/AIDS and malaria, have a profound impact on economic productivity. High mortality rates and a burdened healthcare system result in a loss of human capital. When a significant portion of the population is unwell or unable to work, economic growth stagnates. Eighth, external debt is a significant burden for many African nations. Countries often borrow money for development projects, but high interest rates and unfavorable terms can lead to a cycle of debt that is hard to escape. Servicing this debt diverts funds from critical areas like education, healthcare, and infrastructure, stifling economic development. Ninth, climate change poses an existential threat to African economies. Many countries are heavily reliant on agriculture, which is increasingly vulnerable to changing weather patterns, droughts, and flooding. As agricultural yields decline, food security becomes a pressing issue, exacerbating poverty and economic instability. Lastly, the lack of diversification in many African economies limits resilience. When economies are overly reliant on specific sectors, they become susceptible to shocks. Diversification is crucial for building a robust economy, yet many nations have struggled to expand beyond their traditional industries. In conclusion, while the potential for growth in Africa is immense, these 10 factors create significant barriers that could hinder economic progress for decades to come. Addressing these challenges requires a multifaceted approach that involves political reform, investment in infrastructure and education, efforts to combat corruption, and strategies to diversify economies. Only through concerted efforts can African nations hope to break free from the cycle of poverty and build a prosperous future. The road ahead is undoubtedly challenging, but with awareness and action, change is possible.